Well, welcome, friends. I want to welcome you to one of the most important assemblage of supporters of the state of Washington anywhere in the state today, and that's the folks who want to help Ingrid Anderson save our state and continue the progress we're making. And I want to thank you for your willingness to get to know Ingrid, to see her vision statement, and to join me in helping her, because her election is so pivotal to our ability to really progress with the things that we hold dear. She is a perfect candidate, a nurse, a person who has been so strong on environmental values. She is well grounded in the community. You could not design a better candidate for this district to represent their value system. And I really am serious about this, because this is a district that puts the health of our children first, not just our children, but everybody's health. They have huge heartfelt dedication to our natural environment. And it really believes in a more equitable economy where not all of the wealth flows uphill. And we need her because those three values, frankly, the incumbent has been very, AWOL is too strong a word, but he just hasn't been willing to help. So we need her leadership big time in the state Senate. And having gotten to know her a little bit, I just am so excited that she's willing to step up to the plate. It takes courage to do that, right? It takes dynamic energy. It takes dedication. And she has those things big time. So I am very appreciative of your willingness to help her. It is I need her as a teammate. Frankly, her election will allow us to pass climate change legislation, will allow us to pass clean fuel standards, will allow us to help people get cleaner fuel in their cars and electric vehicles. And that's one of the reasons I'm so supportive of her effort. So I'm pleased to be here in a little bit of fog, but we want to clear Washington, and she's going to help us get that. So Ingrid, thanks for being a teammate.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today with you. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you, Governor Jay Inslee, for hosting this event. I think this is a great opportunity to talk about the issues that are so important to you, to myself, and to the people of Washington State. This is a key pivotal race to change the direction of our state Senate and have a leader who will be a champion, not just a yes vote, but a champion for our healthcare, the environment, and the people of the 5th Legislative District and beyond. I grew up in this community, and I live next door to the house where I grew up, where my parents still live today. I am rooted in this community, and this is where I choose to raise my son. I am a nurse, I'm a working mom, and I am at my core a community advocate. I've spent years as a nurse caring for our community members in the emergency department, in the psychiatric department, and as a sexual assault nurse examiner. And I do this because I know the importance of caring for all of our community members, not just some. I know the importance of meeting people where they're at and giving them a voice when they have none. As a nurse for years, I have seen the deep structural flaws of our healthcare system, and I understand what is working and what is not working. I see the implications of good and bad policy and how it translates to the overall health of our community. I know that now, more than ever, we need this experience in Olympia. I started this path when I began advocating for my patients at the bedside. I then took this experience to Olympia because I knew that my patients, my community, they needed somebody who was going to step up and fight for them. I have had the privilege to serve as the vice chair of the Washington State Nurses Association Political Action Committee. And in this capacity, I worked with representatives in the House and the Senate to help pass legislation that addressed healthcare reform, patient advocacy, and workers' protections. I helped secure passage of legislation that got rest breaks for healthcare providers, legislation that addressed surprise medical billing of patients, legislation that allowed for safe disposal of controlled substances in our community, and so much more. I have committed myself to the fundamental idea of helping others and speaking truth to power. I know what it means to work hard and to stand up for the things I believe in, the things our community believes in. And I know what it means to invest in our community, not just in the businesses, but also in the people and the future that we have the privilege of shaping together. It is time that we have a voice for all of the people. We deserve more than a yes vote. We need a champion for the values that we hold. And I will be a fierce advocate for our children, our schools, the environment, our healthcare system, working people, and our small businesses. We have a hard road ahead of us dealing with our pandemic response and economic recovery. And now more than ever, we need a nurse in Olympia. Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us this morning. We asked some constituents for a few questions, and we have about 10 minutes to get through a couple of them. The first one, Governor, what is at stake this election season, and what do you hope to get done should we elect Ingrid Anderson in November?
Well, everything is at stake. We know that if we're going to actually advance the cause of healthcare, we need people who are willing to fight for that and for fight for those who are in the lower end of the economic scale. And you've seen Ingrid's work that she has already done to help pass meaningful legislation. We need to reform our mental health care system so that it's closer to where people live, so we can have community-based healthcare rather than just large institutions. She understands that, and she's already demonstrated leadership. That's absolutely critical. But if you're going to pick one thing, though, if you've seen the fires we've had in Oregon and California, the whole West Coast is on fire. We know that we need to continue the work we are doing managing our forests. But long term, we have to stop climate change. And that means we have to have legislators who will lead on this subject. And what I really like what she said is we don't need just people you have to drag across the finish line on this. We need leaders who will actually take the ball and run with it on climate change. And I'm convinced that she has a passion on this, together with great talent, to help me get climate change legislation through. And her election could actually be the single one election to determine whether we can advance or not. I think I'm frankly disappointed by her opponent, who has been unwilling to really join me in the things we need to get done so we can create more clean energy jobs, so we can get better transportation options. And I'm convinced that she could be the pivotal election in this regard. But lastly, I'll just say that she understands, she's willing that when there's hard financial times, she's not going to put all the burden on the lower end of the economic scale. And I know that she's got the courage to do that. That's a difference between herself and her opponent. So there's a lot at stake here. And again, because this could come down to one vote on all of these issues, you could not pick a more pivotal election than this one. And that's why I'm very excited about her stepping up to the plate.
All right, thanks, Gov. This next question is for Ingrid. What will a nurse's perspective bring to the state Senate? And are there areas we could have done better in recent years had there been a healthcare professional in office?
I'm so glad that somebody submitted this question, because so much of our healthcare system is governed by legislation, that there is not a nurse in our state Senate right now. Our patients and our community deserve to be represented in a meaningful way. We need someone who understands the deep structural flaws of our healthcare system, as well as an understanding of what is working well. We need someone who will bring other people to the table to make collaborative solutions to the problems that we as providers and those as patients are experiencing. We have many issues that need to be addressed, including affordability and access to healthcare. I think one thing that's really important to point out is that just because you have insurance, it doesn't mean you have access to healthcare. And unfortunately, time and time again, we see many people who have this experience and they don't recognize it till they're in a crisis and they cannot find a provider who will take their insurance. And they have to travel far away from where they live to find that. Or there's a wait time of several months to see a specialist that they need to see now. So we need to look at our system and how can we incentivize more providers to offer that care to our community all across the state. And just look at those different structural things that will create meaningful legislation. And by bringing somebody who understands what is going on at the bedside, we will be able to then deliver for our patients and for our community in ways that we have not yet done. Thank you.
That's somebody who knows of what she speaks.
Awesome. All right. This next question is for Governor. For the Governor, what can we do to make sure Washington keeps its COVID-19 cases down during the fall and winter?
You can elect a nurse to the Washington State Senate, someone who is willing to work with me in the work we need to do. Look, we need to convince people to continue to make decisions based on their own health, on their families and their loved ones' health, and based on science. And when you have a nurse who understands science and health, again, this moment calls out for a leader like Ingrid, who is both the knowledge on what works in public health and is willing to stand up for it. She has both of those things. We know we have to increase the number of people who will socially distance and will mask. And look, Ingrid is not a person who is, trying to have the support of Donald Trump here or the Republicans. And those folks are not the folks who ought to be determining what our policy is. We have a president who's caused, and we obviously hope that he will do well health-wise, as well as Melania, and we hope that he will recover from his current illness. But we simply cannot have him or his party or those who appeal to his party, running our COVID response program, because they just simply want to deny and delay and won't be able to make the tough calls that we've made to try to reduce this virus infection numbers, which we have done. And we have had to fight Donald Trump and his party. And so we need somebody who's willing to stand up and support the efforts that have been successful. And we have been relatively successful. Our number of infections per 1,000 is in the bottom 5 or 10 on a given day of all the 50 states. So our ability to fight COVID, certainly I have a significant role on that. The legislators are as well, both in budgetary and policy issues. And I know that she is a person who's going to make decisions based on science and not a fear of Donald Trump or his party. So I need her to give me a hand.
I will be happy to do that.
All right.
I have a lot of good ideas.
This next question is for you. During the recent fires, many people compared the quality of our air to that of smoking a full pack of cigarettes a day. For people who suffer from respiratory illnesses or are already at high risk due to COVID-19, what can be done to better protect them from these terrible effects of air pollution?
That is such a good question. So we have seen the terrible effects of the fires, and that helped us give a perspective on it, right? So many things we cannot see with our eyes, but we were all able to see the impact of these fires in our air. I am a mom of an amazing son who has asthma, and I have directly seen in him, as well as my patients with respiratory issues, what they struggle through on a daily basis. And you add the fires and the air pollution on top of that, the increase, it has significant implications in the health of our community. So first and foremost, we obviously need to look at our investments in forest fire prevention, right? and working with Hillary Franz to help develop that robust plan and get her 10 and 20-year plan implemented. But also, this is still an everyday issue. And I think this is why I am such an advocate to pass the clean fuel standard. It has passed 2 years in a row in the House, yet continues to stall in the Senate. The reason this is so important to me is because our dependence on our fossil fuels as we know it directly increases the particulate count in the air that we all breathe. And this particulate directly increases the risk of heart attacks, childhood asthma, COPD, atrial fibrillation. These are real significant health problems that can lead to fatality because of the particulate matter in the air that we breathe related to our fossil fuels as we use it. If we implement this clean fuel standard, the awesome thing is that not 5 years down the road, not 10 years down the road, but immediately we will see a reduction in this particulate matter, and we will see an immediate reduction in people having heart attacks, kids who are struggling with asthma, and so many more issues. So this is not just a climate crisis issue. This is a healthcare crisis issue. And I hope to bring that experience with me to Olympia so I can help educate other policymakers and help bring them in so that we can finally pass the clean fuel standard and have a healthier community.
If I can add something to this, this is why I'm so excited about Ingrid's candidacy. Because for too long, the climate change issue has been seen as, just about polar bears. And I love polar bears. I even paint pictures of them. But this is about health of our children and our loved ones. And having a nurse who understands this to advocate this is a health message, you could not design a more important advocate in the legislature. And we need advocates. That's what she is. And she also recognizes that the danger of toxins from fossil fuels we have seen from the forest fires because it makes forest fires more intense. And the smoke has been a visible representation of the invisible danger that it is currently doing that she was so articulate about. So she's kind of a twofer. She has the background as a nurse, and she can be a communication specialist to other legislators and the public. So you couldn't design a more perfect person for the task at hand at this moment. Washington is crying out for an advocate like that, like this. She's right here. By the way, Ingrid, I have never asked you, if I may, do you have some Norwegian or Swedish or Danish background anywhere?
I am a Nordic mutt. Everything from Swedish, Danish, Finnish, all of it. I have a little bit of internal conflict because.
Well, this is why she's also a perfect candidate. She can appeal to the Swedes and the Norse in our state. And that's an amazing talent.
All right, so we have just a couple more minutes. Would like to offer the two of you to provide some closing. Gov, I'll ask you first. What final words do you want to make sure that we leave our audience?
Well, my final words is thank you. Whatever you're doing for Ingrid, I want to thank you for it. Obviously, we need finances so she can communicate. I want to ask you to do whatever you can do for her that doesn't miss a house payment. I mean, do not contribute so much to her today that you'll miss a house payment. But do everything you can. This is like, if we don't solve climate change now, we're at the tipping point. And so if you think about what you might do over the next 20 years politically, do it all this year. Because this it's a make or break year in that regard. And there's no more important race than hers in the nation, actually. Well, Vice President Biden has a pretty important race too. And by the way, I'm so happy what he is doing on climate change. His plan is really robust and comprehensive, but we need to have assurance that Washington is going to be a good partner in doing our part as well. And I do want to ask you this too, and I'm very serious about this. I want to ask you to do something. I would like everybody on this call today to ask you to consider calling two of your friends or texting them and asking them to write a check to Ingrid's campaign. And that might be for $10 or $1,000. Everything counts. And I'm very serious about this. And if you do this, I can guarantee you this. you're going to feel good about doing that. It feels good when you are involved in a cause like this. So I really am serious about asking people to give, and anything that they give is of value. I always like to think that I'd like them to think about giving more than Donald Trump paid in taxes in 2015 and 2016. So if they give $751, they'll show we're better than Donald Trump. So thank you for that. I hope you'll consider it. Ingrid?